I had been a station security officer for 12 cycles, and I thought I had seen everything. The Galactic Commerce Hub orbiting Theta Prime was supposed to be safe, civilized, a place where species from across the known systems came to trade without fear. We had protocols for everything: disputes, smuggling attempts, even the occasional drunk Vinlaxian starting fights in the recreation sector. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day I watched a human get cornered by the Krell Syndicate. My name is Vex, and before you ask, yes, I am a Thorian. We are not exactly known for our bravery. We are short. Our skin is a rather unfortunate shade of greenish-gray, and our forearms are better suited for typing reports than throwing punches. Most species look at us and think bureaucrat, not warrior. They would be right. That morning started like any other. I was doing my rounds near Docking Bay 7, checking manifests, making sure nobody was trying to sneak in contraband. Boring work, but it paid well and kept me away from actual danger. Then the alarms went off. Not the general station alarms, mind you. These were the proximity alerts for Bay 7 itself. Someone had triggered the emergency lockdown from inside. My communicator crackled to life, and my supervisor's voice came through, high-pitched and panicked. X, we have a situation in Bay 7. Multiple hostiles. Armed. Get there now, and assess. I felt my 3 stomachs drop. Armed hostiles? That was way above my pay grade. But orders were orders, and I was the closest officer. I grabbed my scanner and headed toward the bay, already planning my resignation letter. When I reached the entrance, I could hear voices inside, shouting, the aggressive kind that made my skin prickle. I pulled up the bay's internal cameras on my handheld device, and that is when I saw them. 5 Krell mercenaries. Each one was easily twice my height, covered in thick scales that could deflect most small arms fire, and armed with plasma rifles. The Krell were not just dangerous. They were notorious. They hired themselves out as enforcers, pirates, and occasionally, when the money was right, assassins. And in the center of the bay, surrounded by all 5 of them, was a human. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact about 30 cycles ago, and most species were still trying to figure them out. I had seen a few on the station before. They were odd-looking, soft-skinned, only 2 arms, walked upright on 2 legs. They seemed fragile, honestly. Not as fragile as, say, the Quillen with their insect-like bodies, but definitely not built for combat like the Krell or the Hargoth. This particular human was male, I think. It is hard to tell sometimes with their species. He was wearing standard civilian clothes, a dark jacket, simple pants, boots. He had brown hair that was slightly too long and facial hair that humans call a beard. He stood maybe 6 feet tall in their measurement system, and he looked remarkably calm for someone in his position. The leader of the Krell group, identifiable by the red markings on his scales, was doing most of the talking. I activated the audio feed. You should not have interfered, human, the Krell leader growled. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Captain Vorgath does not appreciate outsiders meddling in his business. The human, whose name I later learned was Marcus Webb, just stood there with his hands in his pockets. Your captain was trafficking sentient beings. Children, to be specific. Yeah, I interfered. Sue me. Oh no, oh no, no, no. This human had just admitted to disrupting a Krell operation. That was essentially a death sentence. I needed to call for backup immediately. I started entering the emergency code on my communicator. The Krell leader laughed, a horrible sound that echoed through the bay.
Shoo you?
No, human. We are going to make an example of you. Nobody crosses Captain Vorgath and lives to talk about it. The other 4 Krell raised their weapons, plasma rifles charging with an ominous whine. The human still had his hands in his pockets. Was he frozen with fear? I had heard that sometimes prey species just give up when they know death is inevitable. But then Marcus spoke again, and his tone was different. Still calm, but there was something underneath it. Something cold. Before we do this, I want you to understand something, he said, meeting the Krell leader's eyes. I am giving you 1 chance. 1. Walk away. Leave this station. Forget you ever saw me. The Krell leader found this hilarious. All 5 of them started laughing, a cacophony of hisses and growls. You think you can threaten us, soft skin? You have no weapons, no armor. You are alone. Marcus finally took his hands out of his pockets. Slowly, deliberately. Yeah, he said quietly. I am alone, and you have made a terrible mistake. What happened next took maybe 3 seconds. but I have watched the security footage at least 100 times and I still cannot fully explain it. The human moved. Hui. I do not mean he moved quickly. I mean he exploded into motion like a coiled spring that had been compressed past its breaking point. One moment he was standing still, the next he was a blur. He closed the distance to the nearest Krell before the mercenary could even pull the trigger. The human's fist, and I am not exaggerating, went through the Krell's throat with a wet crunching sound. Not around it, through it. Humans have something called an adrenaline response. I learned later. Humans have something called an adrenaline response. I learned later. In moments of extreme stress, their bodies can temporarily ignore pain, increase strength, and enhance reaction time. But this seemed like more than that. The first Krell went down, gurgling, his rifle clattering to the deck. The other four finally reacted, trying to bring their weapons to bear, but Marcus was already moving again. He grabbed the falling Krell's rifle mid-drop, spun, and fired 3 shots in rapid succession. 2 hit the second mercenary in the face. The third took out the third Krell's weapon, causing it to explode and take his hand with it. The remaining 2 Krell, including the leader, started firing wildly. Plasma bolts seared through the air, scorching the walls and deck plating. But the human was not there anymore. He had rolled behind a cargo container, using it for cover. "What is he?" one of the Krell shouted, his voice cracking with something I had never heard from that species before. Fear. Marcus popped up from behind the container and fired again, this time taking out the 4th Krell with a shot to the chest that punched straight through his scales. That should not have been possible. Krell scales were designed to disperse energy weapons. But humans, I later discovered, modified their weapons. Something about increasing the plasma density, focusing the beam. Military-grade tactics. Now it was just Marcus and the Krell leader. The leader had stopped firing. He was backing toward the bay door, his rifle still pointed at the human but his hands shaking. Actually shaking. You are a soldier," the Krell leader stammered. "You are military." Marcus stepped out from behind the container, still holding the rifle. There was blood on his jacket, not his own. His expression had not changed. Still calm, still cold. Was Marcus said, "I retired. Came out here to get away from all that. Thought I could live quietly. Then you and your captain decided to sell kids." He took another step forward, while the Krell leader took another step back. "I gave you a chance to walk away," Marcus continued. "You laughed. You threatened me. You tried to kill me. So let me tell you something about humans, something you clearly did not learn before coming after me." Another step forward. "We are from a death world. Do you know what that means? It means everything on our planet was trying to kill us for millions of years. Predators, diseases, weather, other humans. We had to fight and adapt and survive. We learned to use tools, to work together, to never ever give up." The Krell leader's back hit the wall. He was trapped. "And when you corner us?" Marcus said, his voice dropping even lower. "When you take away all our options, when you make us choose between fighting and dying, we will always choose to take you with us." The Krell leader made a desperate lunge, trying to bring his rifle up for one last shot. He batted the rifle aside with his left hand and brought the butt of his own rifle up with his right, smashing it into the Krell's face with enough force that I heard the crack through the audio feed. The Krell leader collapsed, unconscious. And just like that, it was over. 5 Krell mercenaries, among the most feared fighters in the known galaxy, had been taken down by a single human in less than 30 seconds. I stood outside the bay, staring at my handheld device, my 4 hands trembling. I had never seen anything like that. The sheer speed, the precision, the brutal efficiency. This was not some dumb animal fighting on instinct. This was a trained killer who knew exactly what he was doing. Marcus set the rifle down carefully, then reached up to his ear.
It is C.
He was wearing a communicator. I realized he spoke into it. "Situation handled. Tell your people they can come collect the garbage." A voice responded. "Female. Professional. Copy that. Station security is inbound. Are you injured?" "Couple of bruises. Nothing serious." "Good. Try not to start any more wars, Marcus." He actually smiled at that. No promises. I finally found my voice. Well, not my voice exactly. I squeaked into my communicator. "This is Officer Vex. Bay 7 is secure, I think. Send medical teams and maybe a cleanup crew." My supervisor responded immediately. Vex? What is happening down there? We are getting wild readings. I looked at the camera feed again. Marcus was now sitting on one of the cargo containers, looking tired. Just a regular person, not a killing machine. But I knew better now. Sir, I said slowly. I think we need to update our threat assessment protocols for humans. Why? What did you see? How could I even begin to explain that everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong, that calling them fragile was possibly the most dangerous mistake a species could make? Sir, I said finally, I just watched a human take down 5 armed Krell mercenaries in under a minute, alone. Without breaking a sweat. There was a long pause on the other end. I am sending backup. Do not approach the human. Do not engage. Just keep your distance. But I was not worried about Marcus anymore. He had made it clear he was not the aggressor here. Walter Krell had cornered him, threatened him, tried to kill him, and he had defended himself. Overwhelmingly. Station security arrived 5 minutes later, a full tactical team, weapons drawn. But when they saw the carnage inside Bay 7, they stopped. The team leader, a Hargoth named Krell, I know, confusing, but not the species, walked up to me. Report, he demanded. I gestured weakly at the bay. Human. 5 Krell. Human 1. Krell stared at me. 1 human? 1 human. He pulled up his own scanner and reviewed the footage. I watched his face as he saw what I had seen. The color drained from his normally orange skin. By the void, he whispered, what are these things? That was the question, was it not? What were humans? We had welcomed them into the galactic community thinking they were just another species. Curious, friendly, maybe a bit odd, but harmless. We were so wrong. Marcus was escorted to the station security office for questioning, which was standard procedure. I was ordered to give a full statement, which took hours. By the time I was finished, word had spread throughout the entire station. A human had taken down 5 Krell mercenaries, alone. The reactions were mixed. Some species were terrified. The Quillen ambassador demanded that all humans be banned from the station immediately, calling them unpredictable and dangerous. Other species were fascinated. The Targon Confederation, a military power in the northern systems, immediately put out a recruitment notice for human mercenaries. And me? I did not know what to think. On one hand, what Marcus had done was horrifying. The cold efficiency, the violence, the way he had not hesitated for even a second. On the other hand, he had been defending himself, and if what he said was true, he had also been trying to stop a trafficking operation. I decided I needed to talk to him. Getting permission to speak with Marcus was not easy. The station commander, a cautious Venlaxian named Trell, had placed him in what they were calling protective custody, which was really just a polite way of saying they were keeping him isolated while they figured out what to do. But I had been the first responder, and my report was crucial to the investigation, so eventually they let me in. The holding room was small, sterile, with white walls and a single table bolted to the floor. Marcus sat on one side, his hands resting on the table, uncuffed. They had not restrained him. I suspected that was a deliberate choice. After what he had done to the Krell, nobody wanted to see what would happen if he felt threatened again. He looked up when I entered, and I felt that same instinctive fear spike through me. But his expression was not hostile, just tired. There were dark circles under his eyes, and I noticed a bruise forming along his jaw. Officer Vex, he said, reading my name badge. His voice was normal now, not that cold, deadly tone from before. You are the one who was monitoring the bay. I nodded, my 4 hands fidgeting with my datapad. Yes, I saw everything. Then you know it was self-defense. I do, I said quickly. That is not why I am here. He raised an eyebrow. No? I pulled out a chair and sat down across from him. Protocol said, I should maintain distance, stay professional, but I needed answers. Real answers. Why did you give them a warning? I asked. You clearly had the skills to take them all down. You could have struck first, eliminated the threat before they even realized what was happening, but you gave them a chance to walk away. Why? Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying me. Because I am not a monster, he said finally. Yeah, I can fight. Yeah, I have killed before. But that does not mean I want to. Those Krell made their choice. I gave them an out, and they did not take it. But you were a soldier, I pressed. The Krell leader said so, and you confirmed it. What did you do before you came here? He was quiet for a moment and I thought maybe I had pushed too far. But then he started talking. I was part of Earth's expeditionary forces, he said. Special operations. We were the ones they sent in when things got complicated. Hostage rescues, deep recon, counterterrorism. I did that for 8 years. And then I got tired of it, he said simply. Tired of the fighting, the killing, the politics. Humanity had just joined the galactic community. And I thought maybe out here, away from Earth, I could find something better. Peace, maybe. A chance to just exist without having to hurt anyone. I processed this. But you stopped a trafficking operation. That does not sound like someone trying to avoid conflict. His expression hardened. I draw the line at kids. I do not care what species they are. Oh, when I found out what the Krell Syndicate was doing, shipping sentient children to work camps in the Outer Rim, I could not just walk away. So yeah, I interfered. I freed the kids and sent them to the refugee aid station on Gamma Prime, and I knew it would bring the Syndicate down on me. You knew they would come after you? Of course.
That is why I stayed on the station. If I ran, they would have tracked me down, and innocent people might have gotten caught in the crossfire.
Better to make a stand here, where station security could contain the situation. I stared at him. You used yourself as bait. More or less. That is insane. He smiled, but there was no humor in it. Welcome to humanity. I set down my datapad and looked at him directly. Marcus, I need you to help me understand something. Everything we were told about humans said you were a peaceful species. Curious, yes. Innovative, certainly. But not warriors. Not killers. How did we get it so wrong? Marcus sighed and rubbed his face with both hands. You did not get it wrong. Exactly.
Humans are peaceful, most of us anyway.
We prefer cooperation over conflict, diplomacy over war, but that does not mean we cannot fight. Our whole evolutionary history is about survival. We survived ice ages, plagues, predators that were bigger and stronger and faster than us. We survived by being smart, adaptable, and absolutely refusing to quit. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. Every human carries that legacy. We might not want to fight, but when we have to, when someone threatens us, or the people we care about, we have millions of years of survival instinct that kicks in, and that instinct says one thing: win at any cost. The Krell leader called you a Deathworlder, I said. What does that mean? Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld by the Galactic Union, Marcus explained. That means it is one of the most hostile planets in known space. High gravity, extreme weather variations, thousands of predator species, toxic plants, dangerous microorganisms. Most species could not survive a week on Earth without serious environmental protection. We evolved there. It made us tough. I thought about my own homeworld, Cobaria. Mild climate, low gravity, very few predators. We had never had to fight for survival the way humans had. No wonder they seemed so alien to us. Is that why you move so fast? I asked.
Why you are so strong?
Partly. Humans have fast twitch muscle fibers, high bone density, and an endocrine system that can pump our bodies full of adrenaline and other chemicals when we are in danger. We can temporarily ignore pain, increase our strength by up to 40%, and improve our reaction times. It is a survival mechanism. 40%. Sweet void. And that was temporary. What were humans capable of at full capacity? There is something else you should know, Marcus continued. Humans bond strongly with each other, and with other species. When you threaten something or someone a human cares about, you are not just making an enemy. You are making an enemy who will never stop, never quit, never forgive. We hold grudges, Officer Vex. Sometimes for generations. That was terrifying. So what happens now? With the Krell Syndicate? Marcus shrugged. That depends on Captain Vorgath. If he is smart, he will cut his losses and leave me alone. But if he decides to escalate, he trailed off. But the implication was clear. You would go after him, I said. Not a question. I would end him, Marcus corrected, and everyone who works for him. I told you, I draw the line at trafficking, especially kids. Before I could respond, the door opened, and Commander Trell entered, followed by 2 guards. The Venlaxian looked nervous, his scales shifting colors from blue to pale yellow. Mr. Webb, Trell said formally. We have completed our investigation into the incident in Docking Bay 7. Based on security footage and witness testimony, we have determined that you acted in self-defense.
You are free to go.
Marcus stood up slowly. What about the Krell Syndicate? We have contacted the Galactic Enforcement Division. They are sending a task force to deal with Captain Vorgath and his organization. They were very interested to learn about the trafficking operation. Trell paused. They also wanted me to pass along a message. They would like to offer you a position as a consultant. Marcus laughed. A genuine sound this time. Tell them thanks but no thanks. I am retired. They said you might say that. They also said the offer stands indefinitely should you change your mind. We left the holding area together, walking through the corridors of the station. Other beings moved out of our way, staring at Marcus with a mixture of fear and fascination. Word had spread fast. Everyone knew what had happened. What will you do now? I asked him. Same thing I was doing before. Find a quiet place, mind my own business, try to live in peace. Do you think that is possible, after this? He stopped walking and turned to face me.
Honestly, probably not. But I have to try.
Because the alternative is becoming what I used to be, and I do not want that anymore. I understood. Horror. At least I thought I did. Marcus was not a monster, despite what he was capable of. He was just a person trying to find his place in a galaxy that did not quite know what to make of him or his species. Can I ask you one more question? I said. Sure. When you were in that bay, surrounded by 5 armed Krell, were you afraid? He considered this for a moment. Yeah, he admitted. I was terrified. Fear is a natural response to danger, but fear does not have to control you. You can acknowledge it, accept it, and then do what needs to be done anyway. That is not bravery, really. It is just human nature. We reached the main concourse, where ships came and went, where 1,000 different species mingled and traded. Marcus stopped and looked around, taking it all in. You know what the funny thing is? He said. Humans spent centuries dreaming about this. Meeting alien species, exploring the stars, finding our place in a galactic community, and now that we are here, we are scaring everyone. Not everyone, I said. Some of us are just trying to understand. He smiled at that. Then let me give you some advice, Officer Vex. Do not judge humans by what we can do in a fight. Judge us by what we choose to do when we do not have to fight. We can be violent, yes, but we can also be kind, compassionate, and fiercely loyal. We create art, music, literature. We fall in love, we laugh, we cry. We are complicated. All species are complicated, I pointed out. True, well, but humans might be a bit more complicated than most. A ship announcement echoed through the concourse. Marcus checked his communicator. That is my transport, he said. I am heading to the frontier colonies. Supposed to be quieter out there. Good luck, I said, and I meant it. You too, Officer Vex. And hey, if anyone asks about humans, tell them we are not the monsters they might think we are, but also tell them it is a really, really bad idea to corner us. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I watched him go. This Deathworlder who could kill with terrifying efficiency but chose mercy when he could. This human who had turned down a lucrative job offer because he just wanted peace. I returned to my post later that day, and things slowly returned to normal. The Krell bodies were removed, the bay was cleaned, and the station went back to its usual routine. But everything felt different now. Everyone looked at humans differently. 3 days later, news reached the station that the Galactic Enforcement Division had raided Captain Vorgath's base of operations. They found evidence of trafficking networks spanning 12 systems and freed over 300 sentient beings, mostly children. Vorgath himself was killed resisting arrest. I could not help but wonder if Marcus had known that would happen. If he had calculated that his actions would draw enough attention to finally bring down the syndicate. It seemed like something a special operations soldier would think of. A week after that, I received a message on my personal communicator. It was brief. Just 2 lines. Thanks for hearing me out. Stay safe out there, Marcus. I never saw him again, but I heard stories. Every few months, news would filter back from the frontier colonies about some impossible feat performed by a human. A rescue mission that should have failed, but succeeded. A pirate crew that picked the wrong target. A natural disaster where a human had saved dozens of lives. Always Marcus. I do not know. Humans were spreading throughout the galaxy, and each one carried that same potential, that same legacy of survival, and stubborn refusal to give up. The Galactic Union eventually updated their first contact protocols for human encounters. They added warnings about underestimating them, about understanding their capacity for violence, about respecting their protective instincts, but they also added notes about human creativity, human empathy, and human determination to do what they believed was right. As for me, I learned something important that day in Docking Bay 7. I learned that strength is not just about physical power, or weapons or numbers. Real strength is about having the power to hurt someone, and choosing not to. About giving warnings when you could just attack. About being terrifying when you need to be, but human when you can be. And I learned why you should never ever corner a Deathworlder, not because they might hurt you, though they definitely will, but because when you take away all their options, when you force them to choose between fighting and dying, they will show you exactly why their species survived on one of the most hostile planets in the galaxy. They will show you what it means to be human. I kept that lesson with me throughout the rest of my career, and whenever someone would ask me about humans, about whether they were dangerous or safe, I would tell them the same thing Marcus told me. Do not judge them by what they can do in a fight. Judge them by what they choose to do when they do not have to fight. Because humans are not monsters or angels. They are survivors who learn to be kind in a cruel universe, and that makes them possibly the most remarkable species any of us will ever meet. But still, for the love of all that is sacred in this galaxy, do not corner them. Just do not trust me on this one. The station continued its operations. The galaxy kept turning, and somewhere out in the frontier colonies, a human named Marcus Webb was probably sitting quietly, hoping for peace but ready for war if it came to him. And honestly, I pity anyone foolish enough to make that war necessary. Because I have seen what happens when you corner a Deathworlder, and once you see it, you never forget it. Never.